Good evening. Or good afternoon. This is class 4 of Music, Business, and Law for April 13th, 2020. Few things as we get started. Again, I'll try to post classes by 1 o'clock on Monday. If I'm not live streaming them on Monday at 1 o'clock, I'll record them earlier and then try to get them up by 1. If you go at 1 o'clock or 1:30 or 2 o'clock, and you don't see the class, just email me and I'll make sure it gets up there. So I am posting some extra stuff under pages and resources. I'll continue to put links up there. Just a reminder on your research paper, 1,250 words. It's going to be about 5 pages double spaced and at least 3 sources. And then you're going to do a 10-minute presentation. And let me start this. Okay, 10-minute presentation. You're going to videotape that presentation, probably post it on your Google site, your Google Drive, share us the link so we can watch those presentations. And those will all be due last day of class. So your topic, this is the 13th. If you're watching this video, it's the 13th or later of April. Your topic is already due. It was due on the 12th, Sunday evening on April 12th. Make sure that I approve the topic. Once I get it, I'll look at it, say, yeah, that's good, go with it, and then you're good to start on your paper. Next week on the 19th, you should have at least 3 sources. At least 3 of those sources, the sources for your research paper, properly formatted in Turabian, and your outline, your initial outline. The outline should be fairly substantial with your thesis statement at the beginning, your concluding statement at the end, and then perhaps your expected subject for each paragraph in the paper or each section of the paper. So it shouldn't just be 3 or 4 lines. It should be a full page of notes. So that's due next Sunday evening. Rough draft is due on the 26th. That's 2 weeks from Sunday night, yesterday, Sunday night. Final draft and presentation are due on May 3rd. We have 3 classes after this. That is 3 classes from, if you're watching this on the 13th, 3 classes from 3 weeks from today. And class is over. So be sure you're keeping up with everything. It's easy to get behind. You'll also be submitting your business plan to the class. That'll be in the form of a video. And your goal is to sell your classmates on your business plan. So make sure that you're, as you're going through your business plan, that you're preparing that in a way that you can present it to your classmates. And those videos will all be done on the last day of class. Let's see here. For next week, for the 20th, continue to read the assigned reading that was due for today. It's due for today and next week. Pages 211 through 342. Page 211 through page 342. And then you'll have your writing business plan assignment for next week will be an executive summary, and that's for the following week. I'll assign that next week, but just so that you know what's coming up. So for this week, you had your assignment was the plans for forming your business. So whether it's an LLC or limited partnership or a corporation or sole proprietorship, which we talked about a few weeks ago, that's your assignment due for the 12th. And for next week, this is due on the 19th. I'd like you to make some financial projections. So I'd like you to think through how are you going to live? How much money are you going to need to do what you want to do? If you're going to open up a tech company, a tech consulting firm, there's certainly probably some equipment you're going to need. There you might have to print business cards. You might have to hire an accountant. Any number of things, maybe advertising, maybe the cost to get a GoDaddy or a Wix website. Um, any number of things. So what I want you to do is think through what it's going to cost you to start your business, what it's going to cost to maintain your business, what it's going to, where you are right now, where you want to end up. And we'll talk about that a little bit today. Now, in terms of what you want to do, I know what you want to do. If you want to do music, you want to throw your guitar or your PA in the back of your car, drive to a church, set it up, sing your songs, pass the hat, then go back and plan for the next gig. But what we want to do is be methodical about this. If you run it as a business from the very beginning, and you think of it as a business instead of just seeing if you can get a gig at a church, um, your chances of success are much, much higher. Anytime you apply business acumen, business ideas, business ideals, and you're methodical about what you're doing, as a matter of fact, just about anything in life, if you're methodical about what you're doing, if you have a plan in place, if you follow the plan, if you adjust the plan as things change, your chances of success become much, much higher because now you actually have goals in place. You can measure those goals and you know if you're succeeding or not. The other thing it does is it allows you at the end of the day to know if you got the work done that you needed to get done. It also allows you to see that you are having success if you're meeting your goals. And it allows you to make rational choices about what it is that you're doing instead of drifting and wondering if you're actually making it or are you going to make it or any number of things um, where you're not sure what kind of success you're even having. So if you set up previously and you say, well, if I'm having this kind of activity, if I'm selling this many shells, if I'm getting these many contracts for consulting work at the church for their audiovisual stuff, if I have two churches a month lined up where I can go sing my songs and I'm bringing in $1,200 a month in revenue. I mean, once you've set some goals, if you're meeting those goals, you'll know you're meeting the goals. If you don't set any goals, you won't know if you're meeting anything. So make sure that you're doing the stuff that I'm suggesting. Um, if you decide to abandon music or the arts altogether and you're just going to go open up a fried chicken stand or another hamburger place. It all works the same way. Business is business. The rules of business are the same regardless of what you're selling or what your service is. And as a matter of fact, we're going to talk tonight about a little bit about copyright and royalties and how complex it really is. It's not terribly complex when you think through what's actually going on, but it's business, and we'd like to think of music as an art form, and it certainly is. But it's an art form to the extent that it allows you to express yourself through musical ideas, through chords, through melodies, through songs, but to the extent that it then becomes a business that you're trying to make money with it. The moment somebody's handing you money for something you've done in terms of art, you've turned that art into business. It may still be art, but it's now a business. And we're talking about the business side of things in this class. Most of the rest of your degree, as far as music goes, is talking about music as an art. This class and the last class, social media marketing, are music as a business. Because if what you want to do, and if you're in CCM, I'm assuming that that's what you want to do. If you're in uh, Christian contemporary music that you ultimately want to turn it into some source of income. And if that's what you're going to do, you have to treat it like a business. It doesn't have to lose the art side of it, and it doesn't have to lose the spiritual side of it, but it does have to gain the business side of it. And if you do that, then you can be firing on all 8 cylinders, and you can make a living at it. All right, so I've given you the your stuff. You continue to read 211 through 342 pages, 211 through 342 in your book. And then your business plan assignment, make some financial projections. I'll put it in I think this is how I have it listed in Canvas. Make some financial projections. Your goal is to convince the reader that your business is stable and will be a financial success. Provide a prospective financial outlook for the next 5 years. Include forecasted income statements, balance sheets, cash flow statements, and capital expenditure budgets. For the first year, be even more specific and use monthly projections. Make sure to clearly explain your projections and match them to your funding requests. Enhance your projections with graphs and charts to tell the financial story of your business. Also due next week is the 3 sources for your research paper and a 1-page outline. All right, make some financial projections. Your goal is to convince your reader that your business is stable. So your assignment for next week is to take a look financially. You're going to project out 5 years, and I know it's just you're guessing, but you can come up with an intelligent with some intelligent guesswork. You're going to as you proceed with this, just like your social media marketing plan, you make changes as events occur. If you're being extremely successful in your marketing plan, you may add, maybe instead of doing 2 performances a month, you may be in such demand that you have to go to 4 performances a month. Don't get so locked into your plan that you're not flexible. Once you have your plan, work your plan. If it becomes obvious that you need to amend your plan, don't be afraid to change up your plan, amend it so that it works better moving forward. You will find right away if you have overestimated or underestimated. And in those cases, if you decide that you want to have um, two performances a month, 2 churches lined up a month, and you only have 1 church lined up, then you have to figure out what it's going to take to get 2 churches and increase your activity to try to find those churches. If you want 2 churches and you're finding that it's very easy and uh, the the churches are clamoring to get you in there, but not the big churches, and so maybe the number of churches you want to sing at or perform at, you're meeting those goals, but you're falling short of your revenue goals. So maybe you thought you were going to get $600 from each church, but you're only getting $200 from each church. Well, then you need to make a decision. Maybe you need to um, limit your performances to larger churches, or you need to get more churches. If you want 2 churches each doing 600, you might have to do 6 churches each doing 200. So you have to make those adjustments as you go along. All right, and as a matter of fact, I would rather do more churches than say no, you're too small for me to perform at. You may get to that point where church is too small, but at the beginning you want to be doing everything that you can. You want to be very busy with this. All right, so forecasted income statements. What is a forecasted income statement? That is you're simply saying, I expect to get this much income in on a monthly basis or a weekly basis over the next year, 3 years, and 5 years due to my whatever it is that you're going to do. So if you're doing concerts, a forecasted income statement might be, I plan to do 2 concerts a month, and each of those concerts will net me $500 in revenue. Okay, $500 in revenue. Some of that's from offerings, some of that's from people buying my T-shirts in my EP or my CD. Some of that might come from other marketing, but you're going to, if it's 500 for each church, and you're doing 2 churches, you expect $1,000 a month. So it's projected income. Now, you might, in year 2, you might say, I want to do 3 churches a month. And so now my projected income is $1,500 a month. In year 3, you're ramping it up, and now I want to be doing 4 churches a month, and I'm going to be doing larger churches. I'm going to have better marketing. People will know me better. I'll have better merchandise. So now I want to do 800 per church, and I want to do 4 churches. That'd be $3,200 a month. So you want to make those projections out for 5 years. Balance sheet. Balance sheet is, in the case of music, there might not be much you do, but in the case of shells, for instance, if you're doing a business selling carved shells, a balance sheet might be your assets, your equipment, your shell blanks, the number of pieces you've actually produced, um, and uh, and taking that against your assets, your liabilities, costs that you have to do what you're doing, and the profit that you're making. Cash flow statements, it's income flowing in, and income flowing out. So you also have to pay for certain things. Capital expenditure, big expenses. It's one thing if you buy if you're buying your shells, 20 shell blanks to a purchase, and it's $100. That's one cost, but capital expenditure would be something bigger, like maybe a dentist drill that you're going to use to work on the shells that you expect to use for the next 15 or 20 years. Maybe it's a car, a big expense. Um, uh, some of those expenses are taxed differently than the cost of just the raw materials to do your business. Um, and I want you to be specific about your first year. And all right, so what I want to do here is I'm going to make this switch, and I hope I don't mess up the video. If I do mess it up, I'll start all over, and you won't even know it. But if you're this far, then you know I didn't mess it up too badly. So I'm going to go to the computer, and let's see, where are we? I want to go to the score page and show you some of the resources on here. And here is if I go to score, okay, and this is where you're going to get some of the forms you're going to need to do this week's assignment. So I'm going to go to score.org, and you don't have to go to score.org, but score is a great place to start. Let's take a look at this. So here we are on the score page, and SCORE stands for Service Corps of Retired Executives. Service Corps of Retired Executives. I mentioned this website in the last social media class. We looked at it very briefly. I want to look at it a little more, a little deeper, because it has a lot of great resources. And for what, if you are doing music writing and touring, there's going to be aspects of this that you'll be able to use. A lot of this won't be applicable. If, on the other hand, if you were going to do a shell carving business, or if you're going to do a technology consulting business, there is a ton of stuff on here that's very applicable. But for all of you, there is stuff here that's going to be helpful, and it's worth knowing about this. So with SCORE, SCORE has has a lot of retired businessmen, and the way it works is you can actually go to this website. There's workshops, there's a library, there's online workshops. You can connect with a mentor. You can tell them what you're doing. They'll find someone that's done something similar to what you're doing, and connect you. And so this person that they'll connect you with is a retired businessman who has volunteered his time or her time to help people like you develop your business and be successful. A great group of people, and this is a great organization. So you can get a mentor, you can get all of this free information. You can take, again, you can take the online courses and webinars. But what we're going to take a look at right now is we're going to go to, if you go down to the bottom here and you go starting a business, and then you go business plan template for startup business, and you click on that, it'll take you to a place where you can download a template. And that template looks like, let's see if we can find that. And might be there, might not. And it doesn't matter. We'll go here and we'll download the business plan. Okay, so this is business plan for startup business. You are, in fact, all of you are startup businesses, and for you're not only doing a research paper, but you're also doing this business plan. And the business plan, this is a great place to come. Download the business plan template. You can just check out it tells you what to put in it, and you can just undo this stuff, gray it out, delete it, start writing your plan. And since it is a Word file, you can keep what you want to, you can dump what you don't want. But here is the business plan. You insert your name and your date and the date of it. There's a confidentiality agreement where you're saying you can read my business plan, but if you do, you can't copy my ideas. Table of contents. Again, this is all set up. All you have to do is edit it so that it says what you want it to say, and take out the parts you don't need, and it'll save you a bunch of time writing your plan. An executive summary tells you what goes into the executive summary, and you're going to be writing an executive summary here. Let's see. That is due on 4/26. It's due from 2 Sunday nights from now, and but here is everything you put into the executive summary. It's all there. The description of the company, what you do, it's all there. Stuff. I mean, a lot of this stuff you've already done. The business name, the mission statement, the values, the vision, the goals, target market. I don't know if you're just going to pull in information on a lot of these things from last semester. You're going to come down. So this is it should be relatively. There's your marketing plan, and this is a SWOT analysis, and there it is, SWOT analysis worksheet. You're going to pull that in from last semester. You've already done it. There it is. You're just going to refill this. It's all going to become part of your business plan. Target market, target client, competitors. If it doesn't apply to you, you can just take the page out. Competitive analysis. So This is a very cool pricing strategy. Well, if you're collecting, if they're taking a love offering for you, that is a particular pricing strategy. Um, so you can come in here and all you need to do is download this template and then keep the parts that apply and jettison the parts that don't. And you can start building your business plan. So, very nice template, word oriented. That's that. All right, let's look at what else we have here. Um, so, in your financial projections that's due for this week, you're going to talk about where you are now, that is what you already have, what you will need based on what you already on what you have, and what you already know you're going to need, and what you may need in the future, where and how you expect to get what you need, predictions of what you will make, and projections of how you will spend the money. Okay, now again, we're looking at the SCORE site. SCORE's been around for over 50 years. Lots and lots of free help here. So you're going to take these financial projections, you're going to go to this page or to this website, and it'll help you with the forms and things that you need. So the goal again is to convince your reader that your business plan is a stable plan and that it's going to be a financial success. People will give money to your cause. If you're doing Christian ministry and people know that you are serious about what you're doing and you have a plan in place, that speaks well in terms of seriousness. That says a lot. Yes, I'm serious about this. I even have a business plan. And if you do that and you show people, they won't, they, there are a lot of people out there that have great ideas for businesses, but they're pretty flaky in terms of how they're trying to flesh those business ideas out. You don't want to be perceived that way. You want to be perceived as someone who's thoughtful and realistic about what you want to do with your life and with your art. And once you show somebody a business plan, I think you're going to find, I think you'll be amazed at how excited people will get when they see that you have a well-crafted business plan and you can say, this is what I want to do. I'm going to need to raise $10,000 in the next 3 months to make this work, or the next 6 months to make this work. And then as people look at that, they're going to want to buy into what you're doing because Christians want to be involved in ministry, either directly and or by funding other people who are directly involved. That's why we can send so many missionaries into the missions field, is because Christians want to be involved in that ministry. It may not be realistic for them to go to Africa or to go to Brazil, but it is realistic for them to support that ministry financially. And, and so that model will work for you as you pursue your art and as you pursue it as a ministry in a church. People will want to be involved with what you're doing. And so part of your plan is so that you can go to Christians, show them what you plan to do, demonstrate your artistic abilities, and they can then get excited about what you're planning to do, and they will write you a check. And so, um, you, I know that you may not that you're doing it as a ministry, and that you would rather not even worry about the money side of it. But the problem is you have to. It costs money to get you and a team to the next church, to buy equipment, to spend time in a recording studio to get a proper recording. All this stuff is not free. And a lot of it is not cheap. So even doing some of the stuff as cheaply as you can, it's still going to cost you some money. So the business plan is going to help you find that money. Let's look at some of these forms. Okay, so if you make it over here to uh, the business plan site here, Again, this is for a startup business. You're going to see there you can download the template, and we've already talked about that. And then over here on the left-hand side of the page, it says Business Planning and Financial Statements Template Gallery. And so if we click on that, it takes us, there's the business plan for startup business, business plan for established business. You want the business plan for startup business. Here are some uh, financial templates, and some of these are going to be very important for what you want to do. Um, we're looking for a prospective financial outlook for the next 5 years, forecasted income statements, balance sheets, cash flow statements, capital expenditure budgets, first year specific monthly projections. So let's look at some of these. I have some pulled up, and this is, let's see down here, score stuff. So here is your personal financial statement. So you can put your name in there, the date. This is an accounting of everything you have right now. Everything you own, everything you own. And at this point, maybe you have a car, maybe you don't. Maybe you have cash in your pocket or a checking account, maybe a CD. Um, maybe George borrowed money from you and he owes you 20 bucks. That's an asset. That would be, money owed to you. Maybe you have an IRA or a retirement account with an employer, and personal property. You may have a Schiffer robe that Aunt Glenda gave you years ago, and it's worth $1,000. I don't know what you have, but stuff that you own. Um, and I don't expect that you're going to have a lot of money to stick in here, but do an accounting, figure out what you do have. Spend the time. It's not going to take you long. Figure out these amounts. Then you're going to put the amount in dollars that you owe. What do you owe? Liabilities are going to be um, current debts, money that you owe on a credit card, money that you owe on a school loan. Um, Perhaps there's um, uh, maybe you owe the IRS. Maybe you haven't paid your taxes yet. Um, uh, whatever you owe money on, figure out how much you actually owe. If you owned a house and you owe and you have don't worry about the $500 um, rent uh, or the $500 mortgage payment. You'd worry about uh, the fact that the house is worth $100,000, let's say, and you owe 70,000 on it. So you'd carry the house at 100,000, and you, as an asset, and you'd carry what you owe on it, 70,000, as a liability. That's how you account for those things. And when you take all of the stuff that you own and subtract all of the money that you owe, you're going to come up with a net worth. So your net worth is going to could be negative. It's possible. I worked this out with my son, one of my sons, about a year and a half ago, and he had a negative net worth. He had an $8,500 negative net worth, and he said, "Well, I don't want to have a negative net worth," and so we worked out a plan. And he now has a positive net worth, so he's worth about $6,000, and that's so he's gone from a negative net worth of 8,500 to having a positive net worth of 6,000. So this is one of my sons, and none of you know the son, so you've never met him before. So it's no son of mine that you actually know, that you're acquainted with, if you were wondering that. So um, this is a son that doesn't even live in this state. So there is the personal financial statement. You're going to need that when you go to the bank to get a loan, if you need a loan, something of that nature. So you want a snapshot. Now you might not share that with a potential donor for your ministry, um, that wouldn't be necessary. But you will have to have this for any kind of loan um, or sustaining uh, monies that come in from somewhere. A sales forecast. Now, sales forecast. This is more germane if you're selling a product, you're creating a piece of art, and you're selling that piece of art, or you are selling a service like in a consulting service um, where you're selling your expertise. So sales forecast. Now, for if you are a musician and you're going out, you're playing gigs, you're playing coffee shops and churches and uh, ministry gatherings and things like that, you can still take this sales forecast and talk about turn it into um, a support forecast or love offering forecast, or just think of it as the um, that you're selling a product, which is your art, and this is what you expect to do in terms of gross sales. Profit and loss projection. This your revenue is the money coming in. Cost of sales is the money um, is what your product costs to produce, and then other expenses are going to be things like salaries, salary, payroll, taxes, supplies, repairs, utilities, things like that. So if you, in the case of my wife's eBay business, so a cost of good there is she just sold a book, a set of books for X amount of dollars, and she paid um, uh, basically 1/4 for that. She bought the books for about 25 cents on the dollar from an estate that no longer wanted the books. And she found a buyer for those books and sold them for um, $1. So you could say her cost of goods, she paid 25 cents for, let's just say 25 cents for a book. And then she turned around and sold that book for $1. So revenue would be $1 that'd go in there, and the cost of sales. So category one was $1. The cost of sales for that was 25 cents. Now she has other expenses. She has accounting expenses. She has uh, uh, software expenses, software that she uses to find this stuff. She has mileage. She has to drive places to get things, to pick them up. She has to drive to deliver things. She has mailing costs. She has all the other things. Her phone is basically her business. She runs her business off her cell phone. So that cell phone actually is a cost for the business. So instead of having a cell phone for pleasure, she uses it as a business tool. And because of that, we can write that off against her taxes or against her total cost of sales. So again, this is if you were selling shells, you'd put, I'm selling this shell for 300 bucks up here. I paid $20 for the blank shell, and then my expenses are, you wouldn't put that, this isn't where you would put that you paid $300 for the drill. This is where you would put that you spend $15 a month on maintenance on the tools that you use to decorate the shell. Um, for a consulting business, here's my revenue. Okay, I just did we installed a sound system at our church. We hired a consultant, paid that consultant $3,000 for his expertise to come help us set the system up. He negotiated the prices. He installed the equipment. He found the right equipment. Um, he uh, is on a retainer to come and help us whenever we have an issue with it. So it was money well spent. So in his case, he might put revenue of $3,000 here. The cost of sales, well, in this case, it cost him nothing because he has the information in his head already. So that's a zero cost of sales, but has lots of other expenses. And so that would be detailed there. Okay, so that's that sheet. And we talked about personal financial statements. No, we haven't. Yes, we have. We talked about that. And 12-month cash flow. This is what you expect to pull in, and you can see here that once you download this box comes out of the picture. So you're going to put, and this is a for your first year, you want to be able to show, okay, this is how much cash I have on hand, and this is how much I plan to take in. I mean, this would all be, um, you'd want this to start, maybe you're going to start this January 21st, 2021. Maybe you're going to start it June 1st of 2020. But you figure out what month you're going to start there. If you're going to start June 2020, you'd put June 2020, July 2020, etc. up to December 2020. This would be January 2021, January 2021, or February 2021, etc. So you're going to fill out the months. You're going to show how much money you expect to have at the beginning of the month. You're going to show how much you expect to take in and how much you expect to pay out for expenses. So cash flow is the money coming in, the money flowing out. Okay, it's pretty self-explanatory. Break-even analysis. You don't have to do this, but it's in there. Not a bad idea. It just says this is what it's going to cost me to do this. So whatever it is, whatever business you're going to do, it's going to cost you this much. And at the point that you bring in X amount of dollars, that's your break even. So just to get out and start touring with a band, it might take $2,000 up front to make that happen. And so you know that, okay, well, you're going to figure out what it's actually going to be. Maybe it's $1,337.19. So you know that the first $1,317.19, or whatever it is, you know that that first chunk of money is going to be recouping the cost of doing the tour in the first place. So you know where your break even is. I thought it was worth throwing it in there. Okay, balance sheet. We talked about this one already again. Okay, no, this is different. Personal. This is your business stuff. Your personal stuff is your personal financial statement. Your balance sheet is your business stuff, and the business stuff are all of your assets. In the case of my wife's business, her assets are the money that she has in her business account, all of her inventory, which is substantial, any expenses she's already paid going forward. Those are all assets in her business. Her fixed assets are things like uh, business expenses that are, she has certain software, um, I'm sorry, where are we? Current assets, fixed assets. Fixed assets would be the part of the house she uses for the business. Any equipment that she has that she uses to do the business. She has printers, several printers, a computer, two computers, two printers, um, a whole bunch of boxes and stuff that she uses. So, and then other assets, and then her liabilities are going to be um, money that she might owe for something. She has subscriptions to software, a couple software programs she uses, where she actually pays yearly for the service. So anything that she owes in the business. And then long-term debt, she doesn't have any, but if you had long-term debt like a bond or a mortgage, you'd put that there. And then you take all that, you add it all together, you add up everything what all the assets are worth and subtract everything that you owe, and that tells you what um, uh, your actual total value of your business. Okay, and what you own, what the value of the owner of the stuff that you own is. Okay, so that's your balance sheet. Right now, for you guys, unless you actually have equipment and product to sell, maybe in the case of, well, I guess any of you might, but chances are you don't really have much use for this, but you will. So, startup expenses, this is how much you're going to need to start your business. That's straightforward. This is the um, financial projection spreadsheet. And this is a sales forecast. Starts out with, you don't have to fill this one out, but it's there in case you want to take a look at payroll and different things. I think this is probably more than what you're going to need to mess with, but it's there in case you decide to hire people. Profit and loss projection. I think we already talked about this too. Money coming in, money going out. Okay. So, let's see if there's anything else. That is everything in that chunk. All right. Okay, so we're going from computer back to the camera. All right, so that's your assignment for next week. Okay, songwriting and music publishing, pages 211 to 342. We're going to cover about half of this stuff tonight as we continue to talk, or until I get hoarse and I can't talk anymore. So what I'm going to do is take about a 5-minute break and go get a drink of water. I'll be right back. All right, I'm sorry that took much longer than I thought it would. I walked out of the room and my wife said, help. And I said, what's going on? And she said, I popped a fuse. So she said she'd been in the dark down in the basement for the last hour. And I said, why don't you come and get me? And she said, because you were teaching. So I said, interrupt me if you have another issue. Anyway, so she just found out that she can't run the heater and the vacuum cleaner at the same time in the basement because they're on the same circuit. So I do apologize. That was a longer break than I had expected to take. So we're gonna move along here. Um, oh, I wish we were all together and you were in the room because I have such great time as we have our discussions. So you if you want to encourage me, if you don't want to encourage me, that's fine too. But if you do want to encourage me, send me your questions so that I can include them in lectures. Make sure you send them to me. Watch the lecture early enough. It'd be great if you could watch it before Sunday night, but watch the lecture early enough so that you can send me your questions so I can get it incorporated into my lectures. I'm recording this one a little early. It's actually Easter, so it is the 12th, April 12th at about 6:45 in the evening, and I'm recording it now so that I can record another class tomorrow afternoon so that I don't have to record two classes um, on Tuesday. So it just makes my life easier. All right, we're going to continue, and I'll continue talking until I run out of time or run out of voice. So, copyright basics. So this class is music business and law, and this is now we're going to talk about some of the law aspects of music business. Copyright basics. You should know, just in a rough kind of way, what actually is involved with copyright. Copyright is a monopoly, and the way it works is this: it's a monopoly, which means that someone is controlling something, and they are the only people in the world that can use that thing, or they can license that thing to someone else to use, but they control it. So uh, copyright creates a true monopoly, but that monopoly is of limited duration. So think of copyright as a limited duration monopoly. How long does copyright last? Generally 70 years. It can be renewed, but if you renew it, generally it lasts 70 years beyond death. So if you write a song today and you're 20 years old and you live to be 80 years old, then if you're 20 and you live to be 80, um, that'll take you to the year 2080. Your work would still be copyrighted, and then your heirs could continue to renew that copyright for another 70 years. So it'd be 2150, 2150, when your copyright finally runs out. So the Beatles were writing their songs in the 60s. Um, Paul McCartney is still alive. So any song that was written by a Beatle, solely by one of the Beatles, and if that Beatle is dead, John Lennon or George Harrison, then 70 years after the date that they died, that song is in the public domain, which means anyone can use it and no one has to pay a fee to use it. If, on the other hand, um, John Lennon and Paul McCartney wrote a song and Paul McCartney's still alive, that copyright will last 70 years after the last person's death if they continue to renew it. And they will continue to renew it because Beatles songs are still, um, even after almost 60 years, are still quite popular. So Fanny Crosby died in, I believe, 1915, which means that her songs were still copyrighted until 1985. So that gives you an idea of how long copyright will last. It's the length of the life of the person who produced the work, plus basically another life, another 70 years. Now, copyright exists to promote what is referred to as the useful arts. What it does is it gives creators the exclusive rights to the work, and it gives it to them for a limited period of time, but a meaningful limited period of a time. So, and the reason it's there is to encourage people to create. Without copyright, if I were to write a song or create a beautiful work of art, and somebody could take that and use it however they saw fit, maybe put it, maybe record, maybe I wrote a song and then somebody else would record that song and put it on a record, and they'd make money from selling the record, but I would make nothing from that effort to write that song. Well, that wouldn't be fair at all, and it would also cause me to think, well, I'm not going to waste my creative juices on this endeavor anymore because somebody else is making money off of it and I haven't made any. So if somebody could copy your idea and make money off of it after you've created it, that would be horrible. So certainly immoral. So that's why copyright laws exist. What can be copyrighted? What is copyrightable has to be original and not a copy of something else. So I can't do, I can't take Happy Birthday and change it a little bit and copyright it. So that's an existing work, and just copying it or amending it a little bit wouldn't be enough to make it copyrightable. It has to be sufficiently creative to constitute a work. Okay, so it has to be original and it has to be sufficiently creative. Sufficiently creative means that it has to have enough artistic weight and merit to make it something that's copyrightable. That is a very low threshold. So I could have my 5-year-old grandson make a series of drawings, a series of coloring drawings, and take those, copyright them, and use them on the front of a series of Hallmark cards, cards for grandma, or some series, if I wanted to do something like that. I could copyright that artwork. And you might say, well, there's not a lot to that. Well, if I can make money off of it, it's copyrightable. So, what constitutes a work? If I were to take an egg and drop it on the floor, that's not necessarily copy. That's not sufficiently enough. It doesn't have enough artistic merit to call it a work. But if I took the egg and dropped it on the floor, and then took a camera and took a picture of the egg and carefully framed the egg in the picture, and the broken egg on the floor the picture was artistically positioned. The egg was artistically positioned within the frame of the picture, and then the print that came out of that was artistically produced. That would be a copyrightable work of art. And the 20th century gave us all sorts of some pretty outrageous art that somebody says that's not art, but the fact that it's there and that people are talking about it elevates it to art. So, first thing, it has to be original and not a copy. Second thing, it has to be sufficiently creative to constitute a work. That is a very low threshold. There is no test, no specific test to determine if something is eligible for copyright. Okay, and I'll give you an example of that. There is a movie that Steven Spielberg made called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Now, if you were 20 years younger, you'd go, "Oh yeah," because everybody saw it when it was new back in the whatever the 80s or the 90s when it came, probably the 80s when it came out. In that movie, Richard Dreyfuss makes contact with aliens. Aliens are trying to communicate with the Earth, and they can't communicate with us by language because they don't speak English, right? They speak alien, and there's no way for us to understand what they're saying. So they communicate with the people on Earth with a set of tones, and the tones are da 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 da. I hope that doesn't kick off the YouTube channel because that is a copyrighted tune. Da 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 da. That five-note melody is copyrighted. Okay, so I can't use that I can use it in an educational setting, obviously, but I can't use those 5 notes in a composition without paying for the right of using those notes. Those 5 notes are as legitimate a copyright of a tune as Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. It's copyrighted. Okay, so what does it take to be copyrighted? There's no specific test, but if there is but if it can be demonstrated that it has merit, and it doesn't take much to demonstrate that, then it can be copyrighted. Okay, so virtually anything you've ever written, good song, bad song, awful song, and you threw it away when you're done with it, that's all copyrightable stuff. Okay? How to get a copyright. We talked about this in the last class, and I'm going to get much more deeply into this discussion. As soon as you make a tangible copy of anything that you're doing, it's copyrighted. It's not that it's copyrightable, it already is copyrighted. So if I think to myself, I'm going to take this egg, I'm going to drop it on the floor, and I'm going to take a picture of it, and I'm going to artistically frame that picture, and then I'm going to take that picture and I'm going to blow it up, and I'm going to sell prints of the broken egg on the floor and make a bazillion dollars, because let's say I'm a famous photographer and people are willing to pay outrageous amounts of money for a picture of a broken egg from me because I already have a following. It's not a copyrightable work when I come up with the idea. It's not a copyrightable work when I drop the egg on the floor. It is a copyrightable work the moment I take the picture. Because the moment I take the picture, I have a tangible copy of the work. The work is the picture. The work is not the egg. So once I create the picture, that becomes copyrightable. If I come up with an idea for a song, and it's going to be a song about the joys and trials of raising children, and I think about the song, and I mull the words over in my head, and I come up with a tune, that's all not copyrighted. The moment I sit down and I write out the words, or I sing the words. If we were having this class and I said, I've got an idea for a song and it's going to go like this, and I sing the song to you, now it's copyrighted. I don't have to register it. I don't have to do anything else. It is now copyrighted. So, copyright occurs the moment you have a tangible copy of the item that can be copyrighted. Okay, so it's something that you can touch. Anything that can be communicated directly or with the aid of a machine or a device. So something I can touch literally is I mean, if if I sing into the computer and I can replay that computer, that's considered something that can be sensed. Okay, something that can be transferred and somebody can look at it and say, okay, I understand how the song goes. Yes, that's copyrighted. Now, and music can be written down or recorded. Either one of those things work. That's all you have to do to copyright something. And you're going, but what about you take the song and you write it and you stick it in an envelope and you mail to somebody and you okay, that doesn't mean anything. It just proves perhaps when you wrote it. Okay. Now, you do not have to register your work for it to be copyrighted. But if you do register your work, it's going to give you some important rights. So, if you have an idea for a song, a product, a short story, a piece of art, and it's in your head, you have no copyright. Write it down, record it, take a picture of it, make a copy of it, whatever. Now it's copyrighted. When you um, when you produce a work, you have certain rights. You get exclusive rights to reproduce the work. You get exclusive rights to distribute copies of the work. You get exclusive rights to perform the work publicly. You get exclusive rights to make a derivative product. So you can take that product and make other works off that product. So you can, if you write a song about, um, you write Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, no one else can use Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. You can, as a matter of fact, you can write variations on Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. No one else can. Okay? And those variations are copyrighted. And you can display the work publicly, exclusively. So remember that copyright gives you exclusive rights. You can do these things, no one else can. The reason you register something is that you establish at that point in time when that item that you're declaring, here is the item, I'm declaring that it's copyrighted. Now, you don't have to do that, but you always have the issue, you would always have the issue of somebody else claiming that they wrote it before you did. So you wouldn't want to create, if I do the picture of the egg on the floor and I take the picture of it and now I've copyrighted it, that's copyrighted and I own the copyright. If somebody else on the same day gets a hint of that and they go out and do exactly the same thing on the same day or the day after or a week later, and they take that and register it, it would be very hard for me to demonstrate that I created it initially and they copied it. It would be easier for them to show that they created it and I copied it, even though it didn't work that way. Now, fortunately, if I took a picture with my camera and if I have a dating mechanism in the camera, perhaps I'd be able to go back and prove that. But that's why it's important that I would always register my stuff if it's great stuff. If it's not great stuff, you don't have to register it. Or if you don't like it, maybe it's great stuff, but you don't like it. Just keep a copy of it, sign off on it, date it, stick it someplace, and or recording and date it and stick it someplace, and then you have something where you could actually um, protect your own rights to that work. Let's see. So we've talked about the rights that you get, exclusive rights. There are exceptions to copyright, and that copyright monopoly is very strong, but there are things called compulsory licenses. Compulsory licenses are must issue licenses. That is, once you create a work, if you write a song, let's say, You must issue a license. That is, you must issue permission for someone else to use that work for the following purposes. There is a compulsory license that is not relevant to music, but it is used in cable TV rebroadcast. It pertains to cable companies retransmitting over-the-air TV stations. So if you're a local TV station and you're airing your local station to Kansas City, you have um, you have a right for your station, or cable companies have a right to broadcast that station onto their cable companies. So there's a compulsory license, and that's specific to the cable industry. Public broadcasting system, the PBS system, copyright owners have to license works to PBS for cheap rates. So whatever it is that you create, you have to allow PBS, that'd be corporation, that'd be public broadcasting, so it'd be radio and TV. You have to allow them to have the right to broadcast that work for very little money. They have a preferred position because they're considered nonprofit and because they're considered uh, that's another discussion. But they're a public entity that are partially funded by public monies. They're not for profit, and so since they can't make any profit off of it, supposedly they can't make any profit off of it, there's no reason to deny them to have a license. So that's public broadcasting. Until 1976, jukeboxes got all music for free. So if you were a jukebox, you had a compulsory license. There was a license that you had to allow your music to be played on jukeboxes, and jukeboxes didn't have to pay for it. Now jukeboxes still get to have the music. You can't deny them, but they have to pay for it. So it is a compulsory license. The digital performance of records. It requires owners of recordings to allow performance of the masters on digital radio, which also includes non-interactive streaming. So radio shows on the internet. Okay. Fees are collected and paid separately by a company called Sound Exchange. This would be like Sirius XM radio. So that is, as the copyright owner, you must give a license to somebody like Sirius XM radio. You must give them a license. They're going to pay for the right to that, but you can't deny them. They have to have access to it. And this is all based on first use law. So even though you might have the copyright, own the copyright, once you have distributed that, once it is made public, then you must give um, digital digital broadcasters, digital radio stations, the right to run that music for a fee. And then the use of non-dramatic musical compositions and streaming, digital downloads, and phono records. Non-dramatic musical compositions. That would be anything like not opera or musicals. So operas and musicals don't have to do it. But if you've written any other music, you must, for streaming, digital downloads, and what's called phono records. Phono records are anything um, like an LP or a CD, or now it would be streaming or downloads. So, and that's called a compulsory mechanical license. Compulsory mechanical licenses came about when to reproduce music, a recording of music, it was actually mechanically reproduced. So if you remember way back, Edison had the cylinders and then the lacquered discs that played on the old 78s. That's all mechanical reproduction of music. And so that's why they call it a compulsory mechanical license. Music being reproduced mechanically. That is a compulsory license. So once they still call it a mechanical license, even though it's done digitally now. But once you have released your music publicly, you must license that music to anyone that wants to use it under a compulsory mechanical license on that basis. So we're going to talk a little bit more about compulsory mechanical licenses. And again, once a song has been recorded and released to the public, the owner must license the song to anyone who wants to use it in phono records. Phono record is basically audio only recording. So once you write your song and it's been released publicly, that is, you played it in a church, or they played it on the radio, or you've recorded it and posted it on YouTube, you must give there's a compulsory license. You must give the license to other people who want to use that audio in their broadcasting. Now, you get to charge for it. They're going to pay you a fee for it, but you can't say no to them. And the fee that they're going to pay is usually covered by some type of blanket um, um, agreement. We'll talk about that a little more. And the way it works is the first thing they would do is they'd come to you and say, I want to use your song in, hey, I like your song that I heard at the church. I'm a programmer at the local Christian radio station, and I'd like to play your song on the radio station. And what I need is, I just need to work out, the details on royalties and stuff like that. And you can't say at that point, no, I'm not going to give you, I won't voluntarily give you a mechanical license, even though it's compulsory. If you say no to them, they'll say, fine, I'll do it under. If you won't do a voluntary license, that would be a voluntary license, then they can invoke a compulsory mechanical license and say you must, and then they'll go off and get one of the major uh, administrators to these licenses to come in, take the recording. They'll get the right, they'll pay that administrator, and that administrator will send you a check. And that's the way it works. You can't, so even though you own the song, you can't stop it from being played publicly. Okay. This includes this includes somebody covering your song. If you write a song and somebody else says, oh, that's a great song, I think I'm going to start singing that song too, you can't stop them from doing that. They have to pay you a fee for it, but you can't stop them from covering the song. You can't stop the phone company from using your song as a ringtone. That's covered under compulsory mechanical license. Anything um, uh, anything that's reproducing that song in another form. All right. Publishing companies. We're going to talk about publishing companies. Okay, let's keep going. Your head should be start to spin here pretty quick. A publishing company, here are what publishing companies do and the major income sources for your music as you write music. What a publisher does, okay? What if you're the songwriter and not the performer? Okay, so we're talking about mechanical licenses and you've released a song. What if you wrote the song? Let's say that Grace wrote the song and Martine is performing the song, okay? So Martine's song that he's performing is the one that has the compulsory mechanical license attached to it. So the performance that Martine does must be licensed to other people who want to use that. If Nathan decides that he's going to release a record of his a recording of his favorite hits, um, a record of him performing his favorite songs, and he likes Martine's version of the song that Grace has written. Martine, which owns, let's say, owns the master to that song, that recording, even though Grace owns the rights to the song, Martine owns the rights to the performance. And that performance is what Nathan then takes and does his own copy of the performance. Martine must give Nathan the right to re-record that song on his album, and he can negotiate the royalties directly with Nathan. And if Martine says, I'm not going to do that with you, Nathan, I don't like you, I don't want you singing my songs, then Nathan can say, fine, I'll do a compulsory mechanical license and I can get the rights to do those songs. And so, and Grace doesn't really have anything to say about it right now. Now, what covers Grace? Okay, let's say you are a songwriter and not the performer. A publisher administers the composition, not the performance, but the composition itself. So a publisher is what you do with the publisher is you go to the publisher and you say, I wrote these songs and I want to get some money for them. And so I'm the songwriter. Here are the songs. I'm going to assign the administration rights to you, to the publisher, for the purpose of making money off the songs. Okay, so the publisher is going to handle distributing the song, now not the recording, but the actual song. Getting people to use the song, overseeing the licenses, collecting the money, that's what they do. And for that, the split is usually 50-50. So you write the song, then the publisher takes the song, gets people to use it. Those folks pay the publisher, and then the publisher gives you half of everything they make off that. Sources of income. Here are things that produce income. Public performance royalties. Every time someone performs your song publicly, you're the songwriter now. Every time Martine sings Grace's song, Martine needs Grace's permission. Every play on the radio, every streaming service, every download, every nightclub, every amusement park, every public performance of that is included in this. That would be prohibitive. Okay, so public performance royalties are covered with blanket licenses. Okay, so a PRO is a performing rights organization, and performing rights organizations, the big ones are ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC. Calvary has ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC licenses. They're administrated through, we manage them through the music department. And what those licenses allow us to do is to perform any of the songs that ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC administrate. Now, that's live performance. So every time we do a concert, every time we do the spring concert and you stand up there and you sing a song, or the chorale sings a song, or in your guys' case, Lux Voces does a song. You go to a church and you perform a song. All of those songs are copyrighted. Almost all of those songs are copyrighted. Every time you do a song, you're supposed to get permission to do it, and you're paying royalties to do it. Now, that would be, now think about all the music that we do in the music department, all the recitals, all of the concerts, all of the other stuff that goes on. Okay, those live performances are all under a blanket license. And the way a blanket license works is that we pay, because there's so many different songs, and because there are three main um, performing administrators, performing rights organizations, administrators, ASCAP, BMI, CSAC. We just have a blanket license with all three of them, and any of the songs under their umbrella of songs, we pay a yearly fee, and they allow us to perform those songs. It's not that we get to perform them for free. It's quite the contrary. We're paying them, each of them, around $350 a year. It's about $1,000 for our licenses. So for $1,000 a year, the school gets the right to perform the songs we perform. We can't charge for it, but we can perform them. As long as we're not charging money, we are under that blanket license. So publishers sign up with these guys. Remember, performing rights organizations, PROs, are different than the publishers. The PROs are the guys that are administrating the live performances. The publishers are the guys that are administrating the actual song, not the performance of the song, the actual song itself. Okay, so publishers sign up with the PROs and get all of their music under one of those three administrators. And songwriters can also sign up with these guys. But even though a publisher can sign up with all three, a writer must affiliate with only one. So if you're a songwriter and people are going to perform your songs, it's worthwhile if you sign up with ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC. I think ASCAP and BMI are both not-for-profit. And it's important that you sign up with one of those guys so that you have somebody administrating people who perform your music. If I decided I wanted to do a choral arrangement of Shenandoah, what I would do is I would probably open my own publishing company, or I'd find a good publishing company I like, and I would write that arrangement. Then I would sign over the administrative rights to that publishing company, and then they would handle the rights for the music. Then I would register with ASCAP, let's say, so that every time a choir performed one of my choral pieces, performed that choral piece, the choir would, under their blanket license, would pay money to ASCAP, and ASCAP would then pay me money for the use of the song. Okay? So, does it sound complicated? Well, it gets a lot worse. And I'll, you know, I'm just giving you the big things to look at in terms of music, the big areas. Again, if you're a writer of songs, you can only sign up with one of the PROs. How do they know how much to pay everybody? Media monitoring companies monitor radio stations, grocery stores. There's companies that just monitor how often pieces are being played. So there are people that actually sit and listen to the radio station and listen to every time a particular song is played, or a particular song is played in a commercial, or a certain whatever is played on the radio station. They also track to make sure that if I placed ads on the radio station, that all my ad time is being used and the radio station's actually running my ads. So there are companies that track the information. They actually listen to the radio station, all the radio stations. Can you imagine? I mean, it's just daunting. Um, and then TV stations are required by law to do cue sheets. So if you're a TV station, every time you broadcast something, a show, an ad, music, whatever it is that you put on the air, you have to record that on a cue sheet. So radio stations are monitored by other companies. TV stations have to self-report using cue sheets. And then all these other organizations track their use of music, and it's done in a way that where they try to be as accurate as possible. Now, the digital side of this is simple. If you have iTunes or if you have Spotify, those companies track every single download, every use of their music. Amazon Prime, every time a song is requested and played, every one of those uses of the song are recorded, tallied, and the rights to that instance of playing is then uh, uh, creates income for the person who wrote it. So the um, it's it all happens all in real time, and it's pretty amazing when you think of it. Um, uh, you're in the grocery store and you're down the bread aisle and you hear Barbara Streisand singing a song. She's getting paid for that performance. So, let's see, what else? Live events, grocery stores, airports, waiting rooms, all of those are logged separately. We have, along with ASCAP and BMI, of course, we have CCLI, and CCLI is the kind of Christian equivalent of it. CCLI isn't as high tech. So I administer two CCLI licenses. I have the license at the school, or I did at the school. We still have the school license, but the new department chair does that now. But in the past, the way it works is that I had the one at school, the Calvary license, and then I had the license over at Word of Grace. And what happens is every 2 years, for a period of 6 months, they rotate it. So that's 1/4 of everybody that has the license does this every 2 years. And so the way it works is that I get an email that says, okay, for the next 6 months, you must tally your use of all the songs that you're using from CCLI. And so I would go in and without getting into the details of it, there's a formula to it. But without getting into the details, I would tally all new uses of every song in CCLI, and that way CCLI then takes that information and they use it, extrapolate how many times a particular song is being used in a church service so that they know how much to pay Chris Tomlin and Matt Redman and Stephen Vicky Cook and whoever else has written songs that have songs in CCLI. So that's how that works. Okay. More about mechanical royalties. Currently, currently every time a song appears on a recording, you pay 9 cents. So if and there is a if Lux Voces decided to do a recording, and Lux Voces put 10 songs on the CD, and all of the songs were under copyright, which, by the way, all the songs you do right now are under copyright. Our ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC licenses cover you to perform those songs in public. That's as far as they go. If we wanted to make a CD, um, I what we would do is figure out what songs you wanted to put on the CD, and then we would use one of the administrating companies. In this case, there's another company called Harry Fox Agency. Harry Fox, um, ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC are performing rights organizations. That's live performance. That's all they do. Harry Fox is a mechanical license um, organization. So mechanical is the recording side of it. So BMI, CSAC, and ASCAP are all doing live performances. Harry Fox Agency acts like a publisher's agent, and it's cheaper for the publishers to use Harry Fox usually than it is for them to hire out their own staff to track mechanical licenses. Okay, so I would write to Harry Fox Agency and say we want to make a CD, and we're going to put these 10 songs on the CD. They're all copyrighted songs. Harry Fox would charge us about 9 cents. It's 9.1 cents right now, 9.1 cents. Let's just say 9 cents per song per CD. So that's 90 cents per CD times, if we did 1,000 CDs, that'd be $900. So it'd be 1,000 CDs times 10 songs, which is 10,000, times 9.1 cents. So the bill would be $910 for us to perform and make a recording of those 10 songs. Okay, so that's what it costs. It's not terribly hard to do that. You log on to Harry Fox, you say, here are the 10 songs. Remember, it's a compulsory license. It must be issued. So if we decided, whatever, the songs that you have right now, and you wanted to make a CD, we'd pay 9.1 cents and do a run of 1,000 CDs. 1,000 is a tip. That would be a small run of CDs, typically 1,000. Usually you can get 1,000 CDs for not much more than 500. That's why that's kind of the cutoff. But like I say, if we were doing a recording, we'd use Harry Fox. There's other ways to do it, but Harry Fox is the easiest for us. Okay, mechanical versus performance. Permanent downloads, like if you buy something from iTunes and you download it onto your phone, that's covered by the mechanical license. That's not a performance, that's a mechanical license. It's the same thing as buying a CD. So anytime you buy a recording or you buy a song and you download it onto your computer, or you download it onto your phone, or you download it onto an MP3 player, that's considered a mechanical license. Every time that happens, there's a ching that happens for the person who owns the rights, the mechanical rights on that song. Non-interactive audio streaming, which if you're listening, it's like a radio broadcast, and it's treated like a radio broadcast. Non-interactive audio streaming. I have Alexa, and if I go to Alexa and I say, Alexa, play Bohemian Rhapsody, Alexa chokes because that's an interactive audio streaming. That's like a mechanical license. That's like me choosing a record and placing it on my turntable. So if I say to Alexa, play Bohemian Rhapsody, unless there's special rights there that Amazon has, she won't do that. She'll want to play a series of Queen songs or songs like that. So if it's non-interactive, if I can't tell the service what song I want to hear, then that falls under the performance category. and that's run by ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC, the performance guys. So those go under standard interactive. That's the non-interactive um, audio streaming. Now, these come under standard interactive stuff like the ASCAP, again, ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC. Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, where you are going to those services and requesting a specific song, that's interactive performance license, and that is the big three, ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC. The internet is a different animal. Before you can stream on the internet, you have to make a copy of what it is you're going to stream. So when you're going to watch this YouTube video and you're going to watch it on YouTube, and the way that because it's not, you could watch it live, but when you're watching it, you're probably watching a recording. That's the same thing that happens if you make a YouTube video and you have a song in the YouTube video. So let's say that Lux Voces decides that they're going to make this CD, and they talk to Harry Fox, and they get the mechanical license. If you're streaming something on YouTube, you need a performance license, and you also need a server copy license. One lets you stream the music as a performance, and the other gives you the right to duplicate it. So you would use Harry Fox to have the rights to record the CD in the first place, put the songs on the CD. You'd use BMI, CSAC, or ASCAP. They would get paid depending on which one has the administrative rights for the songs. As a matter of fact, if you have a CD of 10 songs, probably all 3 of them would at some point have one of the songs that's on that CD. Then you have to have a server copy license to actually hold those songs on a computer someplace. In this case, YouTube's computers, their main computers, where that video sits, so that somebody can watch it. So when somebody's watching a YouTube video, they're not watching the actual location of the digital information that's being played is on a storage place owned by YouTube. So YouTube, you create your content, you send it to YouTube. YouTube downloads that content digitally onto one of their servers. And then when you tell your friend to go watch your recording on YouTube, they're actually accessing one of YouTube's storage facilities and downloading that or streaming that file of digital information from an actual downloaded version of the information that you sent to YouTube. That's how that works. Interactive audio streaming. Okay, so we just talked about interactive audio streaming. We're going to expand that. Interactive audio streaming that's the biggest part of the music business right now, and it's growing exponentially. Interactive audio streaming is Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, anybody where you go to their site and you request a particular song and they play that song, or you download that song, or they play the song is what's happening. Interactive audio streaming is what that's called. That is a compulsory license. Those companies have a right to stream that music. The rates are set by something called the CRB, which is the Copyright Royalty Board. Video streaming, on the other hand, has no compulsory license. Video streaming is YouTube and Vivo. Because there is a visual element, the copyright's not administrated the same way by the same people. And there isn't a compulsory, with the compulsory licenses, there's not only do those companies have a right to distribute that music, but they are charged a specific amount of money that's been prearranged. Okay. Video streaming doesn't work that way. Video streaming, YouTube and Vivo, publishers get a percentage. The rates are negotiated. There's no central place. The major publishers all have licenses with YouTube. Harry Fox represents some of the independents. And typically, if it is a user-created video that includes a commercial recording of the song, the video streaming service pays the publisher 15% of the ad revenue. So, if you create a video that includes a commercial record, first of all, if you create a YouTube video with a commercially recorded song, they're going to kick you off. But if you create it and YouTube approves it, then YouTube will pay whoever administrates the rights to that 15% of the ad revenue that YouTube makes when you click on the video to play it. So each time somebody clicks on the video, it generates ad revenue, and YouTube takes 15% of that, pays it to the administrator. If it's a new recording of the song, so if you are if you grab your guitar and you take your phone and you sit down in front of your phone and you do a cover version of Stairway to Heaven, because that's a good Christian song, right? Stairway to Heaven, it's got heaven in there, God moments. So Stairway to Heaven, and it's your version, then the publisher gets 50% of the ad revenues. Okay, so that's the way it works. In your book, page 239 to 241 has details on something called the Music Modernization Act. Music recording and distribution has changed dramatically in the last 10, 15 years. And Music Modernization Act is discussed in the book, something you can read, but it's not something that really pertains to us. All right. I'm going to keep going and finish this off. Synchronization and transcription licenses. A synchronization or sync, S-Y-N-C, sync license allows the use of music in timed synchronization with visual images. Song underscoring some action in a movie or TV or commercials, audiovisual, streaming, video games, home video devices. Okay, that's all because the video is separate. Video copyright stuff is separate from audio copyright stuff. So if you do video stuff, or if you make a movie and you want a particular song in the movie, or you make a TV commercial, or you have a TV show, or you are a talk show host and you want a band to come on, and or you want to play part of the song of something that's something somebody's made. Okay, that's all covered under a sync license. Radio commercials and other audio sources like podcasts are covered by something called transcription licenses. So this is the use, again, of if you're taking music and you're popping it into an ad or whatever. You hear that all the time, existing songs. Major movers, now what does it cost? Okay, so when you're sitting there in a movie, the next time you're in a movie, and you hear a song play, and it happens, a lot of times it happens in the end credits, when the credits are running and all of a sudden you hear the song and it's a famous artist. It's Adele singing some whatever song. It had nothing to do with the movie. It's just there's that song. Okay, major movie studios pay $15,000 to $25,000 to use a song, a minor song that's not particularly well known in the movie. If it is particularly well known, they can pay a lot more than $100,000 to stick that song in the movie. $100,000 plus. It gives you an idea of what's involved here. If they take that song and they put it at the very beginning of the movie and they run the song during the titles, they're going to pay between $75,000 and $400,000 for the rights to do that. If they take a song, a pop song that everybody knows or they know the artist, and they put it at the end of the movie, they're going to pay $35,000 to $250,000 for the end title use of the song. If it's a hot recording, a recent recording, then it can even go higher than that. This covers, once you have that right, it covers the ads, the trailers for the movie. If the cast somebody in the cast gets invited to a talk show and they say, "Here's this scene, we want to play the scene for you," and the song is uh, let's see what they call it. Let me give you the exact term. Same context. Okay. So it's in the proper context. So the movie, so you have a song that occurs in the movie, and the song is playing in a particular scene because it fits a particular scene. That's in context. Okay. As long as that song and that scene remain together in the trailer, or in the song, or in the scene that they show on the talk show, or in ads that are placed on TV, that's all covered by that initial license. If the song occurs in the ad or in the trailer or in the featurette, the making of, here's the making of the last Marvel movie, and they have a 5-minute or 10-minute making of, okay? Then they charge more money for the use of that because now it's called out of context. So if they pay for the right to use the song with the scene in the movie, that's covered under these different circumstances. If they use the same song to promote the same movie, but they don't have the song tied to the same scene, that's called out of context, that's covered by additional monies. And that can actually be quite a bit of money too. So, let's see. Indie films and documentaries pay a lot less because they typically don't make much money. So the more likely a film is to make money, the more money the rights companies charge to use the song. TV is less money. Competition shows like X Factor, American Idol, The Voice, and then talk shows where they're using, again, popular music. They all pay use fees basically based on views. How many views are expected, and they calculate the fees from that. Streaming services, Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, work just like the movie and the TV deals. Commercials, if you want to make a commercial and you want to use a pop song, it's going to cost anywhere between $50,000 and 100, 200, 300,000, 6 figures, depending on the song they use. There's a lot more discussion in chapter 17 of the book. I'm not going to go into it because it bogs down very quickly. It is extremely complicated stuff. Lots of formulas and ways to track. Okay, now printed music. This is all performance and recordings. What about printed music? On page 260, we start talking about printed music, sheet music, and folios. A folio is an anthology of music. So the 1960s greatest hits is a folio. The music of Rodgers and Hammerstein, that's a folio. So with all those anthologies that you have of songs that you use in your voice lessons, those are called folios. Single sheet music, single song, single sheet music. Every time one of those pieces of sheet music is sold, that's a 20% of retail royalty is paid. If it's a folio and the song is in a folio, it's 10 to 12.5% for the song in a folio. If it's instructional music, how to play the nose flute is the example the book gives. If it's an instructional song, that's 10% of retail. digital print rights, sheet music plus, music notes, e-cards, lyrics online. You go to the site to get the lyrics for a song, lyrics online. Those are all covered similarly by a use, uh, based on use or ad revenue. So if you're downloading it from Sheet Music Plus, you're paying a fee. That part of that fee goes to the publisher. If you are um, uh, subscribed to something and there's some kind of ad involved, then part of that ad revenue goes. Okay, I'm going to end with this: how to set up a publishing company. Now, why would you want to set up a publishing company? Because a publishing company gets paid royalties, and it gets paid royalties on the music that you write. So you can write the music and assign the rights to a publishing company, and they will take that music and distribute it for you, and you get 50%, they get 50%. Or you can set up your own publishing company if there's a demand for your music, and then you get a lot more than 50%. It's real simple to set up a publishing company. You affiliate with ASCAP or BMI, CSAC if you're a songwriter. You register your songs with the publishing company, with the company that you're setting up, and then you register your songs with ASCAP or BMI, and that's how it works. So it's very simple to set up a publishing company, and if you start writing a lot of songs and people are using your songs, then what you want to do is set up your own publishing company, register with ASCAP or BMI and or CSAC, and then you can administrate on the publishing side. All right, we are done. If you are still listening after all of that, that is copyright. Copyright is if if it didn't seem daunting before, it should now. There's a lot to it. There is a difference between you standing up on stage on a Sunday morning and leading people in worship with Lion and the Lamb than if you decide to record that and stream it on YouTube or on your church website, or if you decide to make a recording of it and put the performance on a recording. Those are all different animals. So, what you want to remember is that if the person who wrote the song has not been dead for at least 70 years, there's a 99.99% chance that it's still copyrighted. And if it's still copyrighted, you need to make sure that you're following the copyright rules. Performing a song live is not the same thing as performing a song live, videotaping it, and posting it on Facebook. You can have the right to perform a song live and violate copyright by posting a video of the performance, because they're separate parts of copyright. So you now know more about copyright than most other people that you're going to ever work with. And what you want to do is make sure that you're protecting the idea of copyright and make sure that you're not violating copyright, and understand that if you start to produce art, whether it's a shell or it is a song or it is a performance, that you are protecting yourself and the person who originally, and if you're the writer, that you're protecting yourself from infringements of copyright. So send me your questions if you have any, and I hope you had a great Easter and that you have a wonderful week, and I'm looking forward to your questions and your homework as they come in. So God bless you all.